Yes, thank you very much. Today again, we don't meet Naya, and we must apologize with this usual Saturday conversation. I can call it the Saturday public lecture um, on developments in Sierra Leone. This, as we always say, at the Frontline show, coming to you every Saturday. We're not going to start this conversation. We not always recognize and salute the brother Mr. Prince Chroma, and we provide you with then and now a wonderful platform that we've been able to use to communicate and get this family conversation every week. And the decision of then and now for provide the Africanist Press and myself, and by extension other more progressive voices. When I talk about this, I talk about Mr. Mohamed Warise, former director of Democracy Sierra Leone, who is equally running a regular conversation along with what we have on the Frontline show. Uh, we're all grateful to Mr. Prince Kroma because Mr. Prince Kroma decided to take this bold decision at the displeasure of not just the ruling party, the SLPP, but at the displeasure of a greater sector of the opposition, mostly opposition leaders in parliament and their supporters. These are leaders of the APC, where the support leader of the APC in parliament, Terry Koko, and supporters them, and also increasingly members of the NGC and their who support their parliamentary leader, and by extension, the opposition of outside of parliament who are tied to these individuals. I have seen on social media quite often effort for insult Mr. Prince Kroma and then and now, to the extent that many of these APC, SLPP, and NGC, but more especially the opposition supporters of these parties, the APC and the NGC, are so offended and then vexed against Mr. Kroma and then and now, because I think say then and now don't provide we with the opportunity for me to talk to Sierra Leoneans directly from that. Yeah, I find that amusing. I find that funny. It's a funny development, but most also apart from the funny nature of that reaction and response and anger. Now, what it tells us about the nature of this Sierra Leonean, the character of who we are as Sierra Leoneans. Not too long ago, many of these individuals were the vex and then and now Mr. Prince Kroma and the other brothers and we get platforms we don't future we and also who are being insulted, by these Sierra Leoneans who they support these sellout politicians, I would call them. If not that would make them vex, I use the adjective these sellout politicians. Now the fact that many of these people enforce leading up to 20, make I just say, there is hardly any political party, no political party, no day, where the supporters and the leaders there, no don't insult me, no don't cost me. And this, therefore, do with SLPP, APC, NGC. At least at the one way we don't see. All of them, they may not cost me before 2018, or they may not support me, they may not support or dance around me. What can I support? Because I don't really care whether somebody is supporting my work, politician supports my work in Sierra Leone, or is against it. Because for me, I don't think they support the work that we do. They basically opportunistically grip we work whenever they think say the work favor them. So before 2018, many of the people who call themselves NGC, them insult me. The same way people who call themselves APC at the time, they insult me. And the people who call themselves NGC, they were SLPP also, they were offended before they became NGC. So after 2018, when Madabio win the election, some of the people even they cost me for NGC, some of them take appointments in the government and did it. Then in the process, when we begin scrutinize the Madabio administration, many of these people are now APC or SLPP, NGC people, they begin dance around we work, propagate. So I got this request from different platforms some run by APC people, some NGC, all kinds of platform. They may ask me for get interviews, for be on the platform, for talk about the African newspaper, for talk about the corruption of Madabio, for talk about the publications of what they make. Sometimes I get for squeeze me own time for make I even be in them platform. Well, but when I started the African Express and we begin to write, I was not thinking about these platforms, whether somebody get social media, get and I just see people what they do. Okay, I appreciate the fact that there are multiple voices out there speaking about the things that are happening in Sudan, whether for it or against it. I don't care. I just cared about the work that I was doing. Abutu me head. So, but when these people reach out to me and things say they want to interview me on their shows, on their platform, I squeeze me time and I make myself available. Not because I been need them for make me go ahead, but I just believe say I wanted to make myself available for get a conversation around them, for cater to their own audience. When I published African Express in the African, I was catering to an audience already that was there that has been with us across the years, across more than 10 years of thereabout. Many of them non-Sierra Leoneans in the first place. So when Sierra Leoneans who have their own platforms on social media or radio decide for interview me, I was basically catering. Then they use me for cater to their own platform, their own audience, which I have no problem with. I appreciated that, which is why I subtracted from my own time and my schedule for making myself available. Sometimes some of the social media interview them, even if you say that 1 hour, they end up go 4 hours. You get tired with it. But you don't even tell them no. Because you felt obligated, because you're not Sierra Leonean, you want to participate, or Sierra Leonean ask you for dinner in platform, you decide for do it. Not that I did not know many of them represent this party, and some of them don't even cost me, not the past. I have APC supporters, SLPP supporters, NGC supporters, who did not cost me before 2018. Some of them call me literally, send me message, say, do ya forgive we? Some of them I even had to remove them from my Facebook page. Some of them by 2021, when we don't expose Fatima Bio and Mada Bio and travel, they had to call me for make I add them on my own platform again. I go for look for them because I have thousands of people where they cost. Because where it cost me, I just block, remove you from the space. Why? Because I get more decent people than on my page. We no go one, we not to sell it. I don't know why they read cost on my page. They follow them. So I remove people who insult from my page, from my platforms. So I do that. Some of them I call them, they call me now. Say, hey, we don't beg now, add we on your page. So I get to look for them in the stack of people that I've blocked from my page for add them back. By 2021, the leaders then come. 2022, the leaders, that was 2021. We'll go take by 2022, where the leaders in a parliament don't already form an alliance, we then call coalition of progressive political parties, and they don't decide, say, then they exclude some of the leaders and for APC and decide they exclude their own leaders them. They don't overthrow them party and tell their supporters and now, you know what, you want to avoid African Express, not problem for we. They decided to do that. But we carry on with the work. So the few people that will still continue, by the way, at the time, if I be not be then and now, you not be past 2-3 times. But many of the people that now we decide to stay away from we and decide to sabotage we work. I had been on their platform multiple times. So we disengage. We decide for find an avenue. Somebody decide for provide we an opportunity for say, if we want to talk to the people of Sierra Leone and continue for spread with a message about our publication, because we said don't realize, say, okay, in as much as we're in the right, now there's need for we explain to people what we the right and what they do, because we don't find out, say, some of the audience who we get in Sierra Leone, they don't read. But then even if they go to school, they don't get time for it. So we said to talk to them. So a brother built his platform, has been working on it, decides, say, anytime we need Naya, we'll give you time, can't talk. That is what they are now provided. So because of that, the other people, the way they support NGC and APC and them party, then they curse Prince Kuroma and then and now and call them bias, this and that, call their names. Or some of them say, me don't join these other people then. I mean, the time where I've been going on a platform, I join, no, when I've been make use of my time. But here, now me, they make use of somebody in platform for communicate a message. That's the difference. When I've been they use me for cater to my own audience, use me expertise, me publications, and for make a talk. I don't get problem with that because now help I'm the help una. I be the help una for make una cater to our audience. Maybe even generate for una more members on our audience, generate audience for now. In the case of then and now, na me, then they assist for make us spread my own word. So you see the difference between the two. Una na be opportunistic people that we been decide for hang on me message for carry on una own selfish intentions, whether for promote a political party, for enlarge una own base, or for cater to an audience. And that one I will do. In the case of then and now, then give me a platform for make me talk to my own audience. So basically, they are helping the Africanist press and myself to reach out to Sierra Leoneans. Whereas on our own part, when they try for use we own presence on the platform for boost to ourselves. Now the difference that. So in actual fact, now we for the insult una, not only for the insult for way people they try for assist to forget to message across. But we understand is that my work does not serve your interest, and I know they pretend for that. I am not a member of any of your parties. I don't wish to be. But at the same time, nobody dictates how I do my work and how I choose to do my work. And at the same time, as a Sierra Leonean, I have a right for interact with any other Sierra Leonean, even if we don't share the same views. So if I choose to stay away from you because I don't discover, say, you are an opportunist, and that your agenda is just to serve your own political party and not the national interest, don't be angry with that. I ally with people who mean well for Sierra Leone, who I believe mean well for Sierra Leone. And I'm capable enough. As a journalist, I get over 20 years of experience of working in the press in Sierra Leone. There is few journalists who get that amount of years with me. And the difference is my work goes across governments, from Tijan Kaba to Anes Kroma to Madabio. Much of our politicians who are in a parliament who are the support, so we've been there before them. And we still get for there after them. So I'm not bothered with your insults, I mean, for me, Mami Koso, praise or anything is nothing to me. The only thing I know say your anger and your vexation no they stop me for doing my own work. Number one. Number two, I know say no sign know that the world will cause change society. That one day I know that. I know I'm as an academic and as a historian. Okay. I know I'm back as a journalist looking at societies all around the world. So I'm experienced enough and get sense enough and old enough for know what is right for me, who I should work with, and who I should associate with. You know, they determine that. So your vexation is meaningless to me. If anything, if you vex it because I decide for kind then and now for way then and now give me opportunity for talk to the Sardina people, I will come here 10 times in a day. If from just tell you say, not because of the anger will stop me for do that, I will do it completely and do I'm back to your own annoyance. So anyway, I just wanted to set that premise before we begin the conversation and put people at bay. For example, I don't see, we're going to talk about this. We've been one for talk about this information the last couple of days, me and Brother Prince Kroma, but as I know, I already they on the move today. I even broadcast toner from the city of Louisville and Kentucky, basically. In fact, in Arabic, we miss the time zone. I have been here for the last couple of days as a visiting scholar at the University of Louisville. And the good thing here is that we also get a good number of staff on the ground, people who have been working with the African Express. So I expect, say, in the next couple of weeks, you will be very much seeing more productive work with a return to the Sunday schedule. When I remember, by 2021, every Sunday night we will publish an article on Sierra Leone. And we'll be stopped because we don't know, so we don't finish with exposing the Madabio government. Now moving forward, we don't see now the people who hide behind the scenes, so even they help Madabio, when a lawyer them, parliamentarian them, and other civil society and media groups and business people who they hide, we don't see them now. So moving forward with the return to the actual schedule, our regular Sunday publications will come back, as it were. We will need for change that pattern because we will push back the narrative. We don't succeed for do that. The effort of the opposition in parliament and their supporters will be try for silence the African Express and work. So that may require we for change with tactics and with strategy of publication. We have been see these short publications where they come out different kind of snippets, daily and regular by the hour publication. Now we come back to weekly schedule with exclusives that we've been publishing. So I look forward to that. And that is part of one of the things I look forward doing from the state of Kentucky and at the University of Louisville, where I am right now, and hope for the next couple of weeks and months, at least till the winter come. So that na the purpose, the preface of today's conversation. So last week, if I remember, we've been get a very instructive conversation. That instructive conversation being got to do with the Anti-Corruption Commission, how the ACC has been used in elections, in every presidential election, as a weapon against political opponents. We've been traced the inception of the ACC since 2002 under the Kaba administration, and we mentioned exemplary people who have led the commission, especially in this case, I will repeat, Valentine Collier. Val Collier was not a lawyer, was a very outstanding public official in Sierra Leone, one of the most credible public officials you will come to find, very principled man, impatient with some of the Dabaru business where Salon people can always exhibit in public offices. And I say that because as a journalist, and by the time helping to edit Concord Times, or as editor of Concord Times, I watched Val Collier up to the point where he was forced out of office by the SLPP administration through the use of parliament, because he was very determined at the time for expose corruption within the SLPP administration led by Tijan Kaba, to the extent that he fell apart with Tijan Kaba. Tijan Kaba, I remember an event at the British Council when he was launching the anti-corruption strategy of 2005, complained, say the ACC don't get a bad name. But there was a limit to what the Anti-Corruption Commission or ACC or Anti-Corruption Commission can do at the time, because at the time, in as much as you had a commission, you can get anybody as commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we not necessarily get to be a lawyer. So what we witness under Tijan Kaba, now be a very determined commissioner. We've been determined for go at the length and breadth, very determined for go too far with investigating corruption of government ministers. He investigate Okere Adams, Harry Will, all the while. Big stories, big cases of ministers being investigated by the ACC, but the ACC been very powerless at the time because it never had prosecution powers, the power for prosecute. In fact, at the time, anybody, when a senior person like that, can be an ACC commissioner without being a lawyer. So now after Valentine Collier, now they turn now the call for the need for maybe the ACC begin get prosecution powers, the power for investigate and also prosecute on their own independently begin come. And because of how the Tijan Kaba administration handled the anti-corruption problem, the British defeat them fold up funding. They even decided to hold up some of the support to the ACC leading up to the elections of 2007. In fact, now that time they will begin get musicians like Daddy Sarge produce corruption, they do so. Now the time that you see Emerson step on the stage with the music, we get for deal with corruption largely. Bobo Bele, Tufu Tarata, all these kind of songs. So the emergence of new protest music in the post-war era, anti-corruption music in itself was symptomatic of the prevalence of corruption in the country under the SLPP of Tijan Kaba. So the Anti-Corruption Commission's frustration in this determined effort to go after corrupt people was crippled, because the commission, when they don't investigate it and they send the file and go to the Attorney General's office, the Minister of Justice and Law Officers Department. And there was an unwillingness on the part of the Law Officers Department to prosecute many of them people there at the time. And this was the time when we been get At some point, Eke Hallowell as Attorney General and Minister of Justice. At some point, we will get Berewa as Attorney General and Minister of Justice before he become Vice President, and leading up to the elections of 2007. But at the time, it was already obvious that the government of Tijan Kaba was massively corrupt, and not only the music itself, you not be need newspaper or anything or what they talk about, but just look the music we come out within it, and then from jungle leaders to Emerson Bokari to Daddy Sarge, Innocent with the Dewa will give a notice, So you see, say by 2007, the length and breadth of Sierra Leone, everybody knew. Within Abobo Bele, they knew to foot Arata, anti-corruption, the watch, that kind of thing. So you find out, say, the Anti-Corruption Commission was really progressive. And the effort of the Anti-Corruption Commission for Fight Corruption was also replicated in the efforts of these cultural producers, musicians producing music that complemented the effort and the message of the ACC. So the removal of Val Collier and the crippling of the Anti-Corruption Commission played a role. The corruption fight, or the idea of corruption, played a significant role in the defeat of the SLPP in 2007. There are no questions about that. But significant development happened after the elections of 2007 as regards corruption. When Ernest Kromaka na power, there was need for sure the international community and development partners, donors, will be not begin fold up the money. Because I remember by 2005, a donor conference that was supposed to be held in Paris was never held. For make support was postponed because they become fed up with the fact that the government, the SLPP government of the Jankaba was massively corrupt. They become withheld funding. Likewise, like out of British. So even when Alex Kromah came, there was a need for what they call an international public relations effort. That made them appoint Tony Blair for help build what they call investor confidence from England for come. And then get this Sierra Leone conference, investment conference in England. And Ernest Kromah was at Chatham House, where if you check the speech and everything, he was basically assuring Sierra Leonean, the international community, say Sierra Leone was supposedly ready for business, ready for investment, and all of that. So subsequent to that, we see, subsequent to the Chatham House visit, after the inauguration of Ernest Kromah, a lot of companies doing Ghana, London Mining now, African Minerals, ADAX, and Sokfin, where they na Pujao now, they harass people in a Sam Malen chiefdom. All the while, you see a lot of corporations flooded in, mining companies begin open up. So the British also restore money into the anti-corruption effort, renew them, then support. Why? But that not only happened so because there was need for also change the legislation, the law, we set up the Anti-Corruption Commission, a review of the Anti-Corruption Act that existed before 2007, or between 2002 up to 2007, was done. In 2008, we get a new act, the Anti-Corruption Act of 2008. One major thing we do, apart from the fact that he introduced the requirement that anybody where they head the Anti-Corruption Commission for don't be a lawyer of at least some kind of 10 years of with 10 years of experience or 10 years post-bar. He also had a prosecution power, the power to prosecute. He give the commission the independent power for investigate and charge people and go to court. Now, more development don't take place since then. The setting up of a special anti-corruption commission court and all that things, anti-corruption judges and then but we can't do that. But by what I try to say, by 2008, when Ernest Kromah came to power, by 2008, he strengthened the Anti-Corruption Commission in two ways, making sure whoever becomes the Anti-Corruption Commissioner is somebody who is supposedly of 10 years experience as a lawyer. By that point, if you don't qualify for be maybe even a judge, so you're familiar with the law. If you don't know the law, you know how to charge, you know how to help investigate or superintend the investigations and the legal aspects of violations where they take place in such kind of situation. So which means Ernest Koroma actually took a move, the first move for ensure the independence of the ACC. That has to be given to him. The independence of the ACC by making sure that the ACC investigate corruption, not to pass the Senate to the Attorney General when a member of the cabinet, but then he send them directly in a court. So he left to the court now for either judge the case and convict the person or convict the person, and a different story. But the commission, for the first time, had an opportunity to have a lawyer as his head, had an opportunity, the legal authority for investigate and charge on their own, go to court. So now would they one for charge, or would I no one for charge? But if the basis for charge exists, they're not going to say that the law officers department prevent them not for charge, as the case was under Val Collier. But so learning from that lesson, Ernest Koroma decided to lead the process to reform the Anti-Corruption Commission, because for make all them big companies in Canada, the country people, and begin to put money back, they need for make sure the corruption is reduced, or there are ways to punish anybody will try for dupe the state in a particular fashion. So, and what that means was that the commission had to be made more independent. And one way for making for give a new law we go restore in autonomy. And Ernest Koroma led the process, or allowed the process, for making young members of parliament and in your own government also lead the process for pass a new law. And at that law day, now under that law day, Tijan Cole became Anti-Corruption Commissioner, which means Tijan Cole was the first, supposedly one of the first, or had more authority and more independence than any other commissioner before him. He has a legal authority than any other commissioner before him for pursue and fight corruption, more than Val Collier. And if you now listen to me, for the most part, I have singled out Val Collier and Tijan Cole, say, now that we go read say if we assess at the Corruption Commissioner, under the we will assess the effectiveness of the commission or not. And this is not to say because I know Tijan Cole, no. I know by the time he was commissioner, I had significantly been disengaged, mostly as a journalist at the time, instead of focusing more in other parts of the world. Most especially, my work was more focused on East Africa, Kenya, and other places at the time, between 2008 to 2010. So, which means by the time he was in office, I've not been paid too much attention. But I do know, reading from the papers and whatever, that he ran into conflict with the state and then escape out of the Anti-Corruption Commission and run away and resign unceremoniously and go. So on that basis, that he resigned from the commission for trying to do right, whereas Val Collier was forced out just like and forced Lara Taylor Pierce. So I had singled these two out. But if you ask me today who has been the best anti-corruption commissioner, ACC commissioner, ever since the commission was established, I will tell you up front that Val Collier is the person to talk about. Is Naina the man to talk about. So today I don't decide for continue the conversation I initiate last time, which is the Anti-Corruption Commission and how it has served as a weapon against political opponents since at least 2007 to now. And I've been mentioned in the past conversation briefly in passing in the process, two examples of the past election. The Timbergate leading up to the elections of 2012 and the Hajgate leading up to the elections of 2018 as two examples. And now, leading up to the election of 2023, we get what we call the chance rebuilding case. So I want for today spend some time as the second part of this conversation. We'll talk about these incidents in brief. I think we're going to spend more time in the ACC for the next couple of weeks talking about this. But I want to take a break now, and can please, I see we want to get an appreciable audience. Let us share the link to this video while we take this break, and we'll come back and now go into the conversation. Today, I'm not planning to make this long. I just moved into a new city, and I'm trying to settle down and get other things, get going. So I will try to make this conversation a little bit shorter than we used to have. But I'm hoping that in the process, we will talk about many things. I will try to mention this whole idea of um, Mamadi Doumbouya from Guinea visiting Sierra Leone and the anxiety it has caused. I will try to spend 1-2 minutes, maybe towards the end, if I not forget, in the process. So we'll take a break and we'll come back. And thank you very much for being here. This is the Frontline show. And again, I salute Mr. Prince Kroma and the Then and Now platform for this wonderful opportunity where they provide with every week. I will come back shortly after this break. All right. Once again, thank you very much for the wonderful time and opportunity we then and now give you for get this regular weekly conversation. Today is the 29th day of October. It's on a Saturday. And from me on time, we have 2:40. And I see already we got appreciable number of people watching from Berlin, from different parts of Europe, the UK, in Sierra Leone. And next week, we got to bring up a new program. We'll talk about the disinformation campaign and how to counter disinformation. As soon as I know, we don't get very dangerous poison that is being spread by the politicians in Sierra Leone and their allies, both in civil society, in media, and all of that. And there's a need for interrogate this information as alone now. Especially so from the last year to now, we got for look at the reported arrest of people, the effort for discredit credible institutions like Then and Now and other people, the slanderous campaigns, lies, effort for create distraction, drama, and all that. How for counter and how for discover. And we'll give you examples from our own experience. People the way they send we fake information, thinking, use people the way we believe or send fake information to them for make them pass on to we. We look at those things, how we able to identify some of these things and how we identify them, how they vet information. We think say it's high time we educate the citizen and public about these information campaigns, especially as we go into the election, and for point out not only examples, but point out possible areas where these disinformation efforts are coming from that we've identified. And we'll name names of people who don't try for pass fake information to people that we believe, people that we know, so that they will pass them on to we, or some the way pass them to we directly. So that a duty, we owe this to the country and we people them. So a couple of things has happened since our last conversation, which is the chance rebuilding case. Because the chance rebuilding case will be in start where we begin highlight the effort of the Anti-Corruption Commission and how it's becoming a tool in every public election. So we go start off the conversation from that point by way of an update from the Anti-Corruption Commission, and not only the current chance rebuilding case, but working backwards for see how similar situation don't happen. And I don't already highlight to and say the Anti-Corruption Commission get the power to prosecute, the independence, we'll talk about the autonomy of the Anti-Corruption Commission, the autonomy, the independence of the ACC was given to it in absolute terms by the Anes by Kuruma government. Because I remember last week when I talk about this situation, the weaponization of the ACC, I see argument on social media, especially coming from APC people, we tend for misinterpret or misrepresent my words that I don't talk say Anes Kuruma and weaponize the ACC. That's not their own interpretation, but my words are very clear. The institution is what I'm looking at. So the president appoints an anti-corruption commissioner. In the case of Anes Kuruma, first and foremost, he ensured that a legislation was passed, a law was passed in parliament that made sure whoever is going to be head of the Anti-Corruption Commission will be an individual with at least 10 years of legal practice. If it don't be 10 years of legal practice, that means you call a senior lawyer, according to the law. Then anybody don't be 10 years post-bar, if you're in Nigeria, you get the right for being excused for practice in a salon, for represent somebody in a salon within the Commonwealth countries. So, and I know about my attention about this was brought to my attention in 2000 and subsequently after the war, when Edo Okania, a Nigerian lawyer, had come to Sierra Leone to represent Fode Sanko, and Berewa had not been agreed. Solomon Berewa had not been agreed for making represent them, including even Eke Hallowell as Attorney General had not been agreed. Part of the argument was that since Edo Okanya, Nigerian lawyer, will be one for represent Fode Sanko, was 9 years and a half, even on the 9 years, 6 months since he began practice law in Nigeria. So based on that, then things say he was not qualified to represent anyone in Sierra Leone. So the man put up an argument, say, since he not become for practice law in a salon, and did it completely, he may ask for some kind of a waiver that will allow him to just represent his client, who was Fode Sanko. They made that argument back and forth. Now the special court charged Fode Sanko and taken from the judiciary of Sierra Leone and transferred to the special court trial. But the idea of 10 years post-bar, that you have to have 10 years post-bar experience in another Commonwealth country, in say West Africa, you can be allowed to practice. That is when my first introduction to that arrangement within the legal system of British Commonwealth countries in West Africa, I became aware of it through observing and covering. And by that time, most of the articles I read, they were published by the Democrat newspaper. This was, I think, around 2002, 2003, if I remember very well, if I don't forget. But sometimes I get for look at my papers and for see what time. But now that time, I can't know. So when Anes Kuruma passed law in 2008 for talk say anybody with the head the Anti-Corruption Commissioner, for be or any kind possible, for be lawyer, and only a lawyer with 10 years experience, they really meant that they forget a senior lawyer where be say Naingo serve as head of the ACC. Then a major change from the 2002 Act we introduced, we established the commission. The number two thing again, we then say that the commission for the first time again forget under that law the power for investigate and prosecute and charge go to court. That not been the first time where the Anti-Corruption Commission investigate under the Jankabaden term, then they make the file, then everything, the evidence will then get and sent to the Attorney General's office, to the AG's office. And the AG, as I already know, are the Minister of Justice, are part of the cabinet. So you don't go on for charge any government minister. But another the problem they encounter with Val Collier, take Parliament for some. He come out. Then basically they chased him out of the ACC. So learning from that experience, and Tiana Escobar within a parliament I think he decides for make them get confidence in the anti-corruption effort, they need for change the law. Then only change the law for make sure that the commission get the power for prosecute, charge on their own, but the commission also get the power for, the commission should be led by a lawyer, senior lawyer. So Tijan Cole, now under that circumstance, Tijan Cole become ACC commissioner. which means he's a senior lawyer, head the commission. He had more independence by law. The law gave more independence for staff. So when they talk about the independence of the Anti-Corruption Commission, it begins that process, the legal basis for me, we talk about the autonomy of the ACC start under Ernest Koroma, under the 2008. Now, there's a difference. It's a different conversation whether the ACC are not able to operate independently, regardless of the fact that they get this law, we allow them. And for many of us, we don't already talk, say the ACC has not been independent of the machination of politicians. When I know that the politicians within a power, or politicians with power, they've not allowed the Anti-Corruption Commission, the ACC, for operate independently and work fairly in pursuit against graft, against corruption. In fact, now because Tijan Cole enter into that kind of situation, I make it run away left. In the case of Val Collier, you know, we get the power where Tijan Cole get. With Tijan Cole, in get the power, get the independence for pursue corruption. The politicians, they will get power in the country, then chase them out for me run away. So moving forward, the question is, has the commission been useful? Has it been useless? And what has made the commission useless, a useless entity? Okay, in my view, we do not need an anti-corruption commission in Sierra Leone. The reason is because I don't observe the commission from 2002 to 2022, 20 years history. I don't find out, say, it has produced what sociologists will call its latent functions instead of its manifest function. The purpose for which the Anti-Corruption Commission was established, it has failed to live up to those expectations, and for that purpose, it otherwise turned for be the reverse of what it was established for. So in that case, there is no need for an ACC. The reason why we get an anti-corruption commissioner because the transparency mechanisms in the country were destroyed. We are destroyed by the politics of corruption, political corruption, and the lack of institutional independence within the governance arrangement. Okay, checks and balances, not they operate, separation of powers, not they operate in a real sense between the three arms of government. So with the end of the war, international organizations begin to recommend the setting up of complementary organizations and processes where they open up democratization and accountability and transparency in the management of public resources, especially so when many of the resources go into many of these countries we don't suffer war and crisis and disaster, they are basically the what you call donor or grants or debts from IMF, World Bank, DFID, and all these international agencies. And some of it are loans, grants, or development assistance. And many of what you call development assistance or grants or loans are also monies from taxpayers in the countries that these monies originate from. Taxpayers in America, taxpayers in Canada, taxpayers in Norway, taxpayers in Sweden, taxpayers in England, taxpayers in Belgium, Germany, and other such countries. Now, they move money, now in the government, they take organizations, and put her into some of these countries. They have to be held accountable in America, in Canada, in Europe for these monies. They have to have a way to justify and explain why then they continue for give alone money. And one way for continue for say the money is benefiting ordinary people, is providing water supply, is providing good roads, is providing electricity supply. But now with 20 years of the setting up of an anti-corruption commission way for prevent the theft of public money by public officials, and then provide services, better services, social service delivery, economic and social development for Sierra Leoneans, we don't end up in a situation where our conditions have gotten worse than it was before 2002 when the ACC was established. It has gotten worse in 2022 more than in 2002. The question then is, the Anti-Corruption Commission has failed in its supposed pronounced effort for mop and prevent leakages, theft of public funds will go into social service delivery. The question is then, how did it fail? Who are responsible for its failure? We'd already established, intentionally, a government that came to power in 2000 and following 2007 elections empowered the commission with law and an institutional arrangement that would have allowed it to operate independently. But then it has failed to do that because the politicians with power located in parliament, in the judiciary, in other sectors of the administration, have disabled the commission from functioning. And that is what I want to talk about today. Now, that I want to talk about. And using three examples: the current chance rebuilding case, where we get leading up to the elections of 2023, the Hajgate, where happened leading up to the elections of 2018, and the Timbergate will happen leading up to the elections of 2012. These events, these three major things that are not happen coincidentally, not a coincidence. Then they not only happen right at the time when elections they come, but also they are they occurred and involved individuals who have a stake in any pending election, any pending presidential election. In the case of 2011, with the Timbergate, it was zoomed on the vice president, who many in the APC at the time wanted the president to remove, so that they will take charge and become in his place. They not been want to make Ernest Koroma run with her in the elections of 2012. Now, did they succeed to do that? No. Why did they not succeed to do that? We got to talk about that with profile. Why JFK or Joseph Kamara not be able or not be moved ahead for charge Sam Sumana at the time, even though he had the power to do that. And if he want to do that, if he been do that, even if he go lost the case, if he been do that, but he not do it. You don't understand? And that there was no basis to remove the vice president in this instance and move on with another candidate in the election. So if Ernest Koroma wanted to run in the pending election with another person, he will have to drop his ongoing vice president. But regardless, you see, he ended up dropping the vice president leading up to the elections of 2018. Not only that, appointed another vice president who was also supposedly implicated in another corruption scandal, the Hajgate scandal. And then automatically, the people who were accused also, two of the most senior people in the party at the time, the deputy chairman of the party, Minkailu Mansare, and Victor Fo, were senior people in the APC, very senior people. But they also, because of the Hajgate corruption scandal, they could not have a moral basis or a justification for being on any ticket of the APC leading up to 2018, even if the APC wanted to do that. The APC members wanted them to do that. They would not have, they were discounted by that allegation. Now the allegations were dismissed. They've been turned down. They've been, they don't throw away. And the question is, how did Ade Macaulay, who was the commissioner at the time, also able to charge them and then they all come up with those allegations against them, or who was investigating them, which affected, and who were the beneficiaries? Is it possible that the APC ticket, as it was in 2018, will have become that ticket if the Hajgate scandal not happened? Now, leading up to 2023, we also get the same ACC implicating a leading contender for the election. Somebody, Samura Kamara, is also implicated in this case, simply leading up to the election of 2023. And and this also has to do with the APC internal politics and also the national politics in the elections. So all of these are correlated and connected. They are not separate from each other. They are not coincidental, and they all got to do with the commission. So when I put all of this in perspective, and then contrast this development, these three cases, where then put more seriousness into, where they end up being zero, zero, and zero, and then look at the evidence of corruption itself as we have it, and really corrupt people the way we all know, where they waka around, who don't use both the media and politicians don't use as examples of corruption. And ACC never touch them, never bother about those things. Then the question is, why do we need an ACC? In my view, if we had an effective audit service, an audit service that checks and inspect, independent audit service where they check and inspect government expenditure and track them and reporter, and then there's action from Parliament, the Parliamentary Accountability and Finance Committees, they will take control the oversight responsibility of Parliament for safeguard public finances. We're not going to get this kind of need for an ACC. So because then the Accountant General's department will ensure that they don't go just write check or allow or authorize the opening of an account without going through the required procedures. So if these internal control mechanism, internal audit processes, transparency system within the administration were respected, institutions and the Accountant General's Department, the Audit Service, the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Finance or Accountability Committee, as you have it, and Parliamentary Accounts Committee or Accountability Committee, the PAC of Parliament, the Audit Service, the Accountant General's Department, the central bank, if it's independent, an independent bank governance central bank, they are enough, more than enough, for control waste in public spending, for control theft of public funds. There, when somebody steals public money, it becomes a criminal offense. The Criminal Investigations Department of the police will be called in to arrest criminals who steal public money, and they will be charged to court. And where the courts are independent, these people will be sentenced. There will be no need for a special commission to look at the crime of theft, a theft of public funds. You don't need that. You can get anti-corruption laws that are against corruption, but implemented by the transparency mechanisms within the system that exist from the parliamentary level to the executive branches of government and to the judicial branches of government. When you talk about central bank, it's tied to the Minister of Finance. Accountant General's Department is tied to the Minister of Finance. The Audit Service, likewise. The Parliament, you see, these checks and balances and separation of powers would have allowed the proper functioning of government for reduced corruption. Now, because they're not functioning, I make them add another institution, an appendage to the internal transparency system, hoping that it will be independent to do. But what we don't can find out, without people not taking notice, the same way we see how they weaponize the central bank and the currency market against opposition, certain opposition politicians there. Now, so also the Anti-Corruption Commission don't function in these 20 years as an aberration to the process of transparency and accountability, and not become a weapon for exclude and target particular politicians. And in the case of these three examples who they use, it is not happening by just the especially in recent times. You check this chance rebuilding case. It not happen as an independent operation of the ruling party alone. It is a joint effort by people, lawyers, politicians, and parliamentarians, largely in the opposition and across the ruling party. A joint party effort, a coalition that is built in parliament together with the ruling party in their effort to exclude one of their own kind, decide for use the commission for stifle or harass and intimidate their own potential contender, both within the opposition party, APC, and at the national level. You don't see the case. The other case in 2018 was a case of where the internal struggles within the APC itself as a ruling party, also the ACC was played into that fight for disable key competitors within the party so that other people will rise up. That is how you will have a junior politician like Chernoh becoming a favorite from the shadows. They just emerge as this unknown assistant flag bearer or deputy flag bearer to the APC ticket in 2018. Because the question would be, who side them other two senior? If, for example, the ACC not been frame up or go after Minkailu Mansare and, of course, Victor Fo, is it possible that if we get a junior party member floated? The question of selection or appointment. And don't forget, this is the same individuals who are benefactors of the same undemocratic processes for bring them up the stage of the national political stage, that they organize a coup using the same judiciary and the same anti-corruption process for elevate themselves and hold on to their party. So when you examine this, what you are talking about is junior ranking politicians hiding within political parties and use power and the appendages of power for carry out their own operation. In other countries, it's called the fifth column. So what we've come to identify is the fact that APC opposition members who were mostly, you might call them in the past, these were the Kurumaist, the Anes Kuruma die-hard supporters, Anes Kuruma die-hard followers, who in 2013 went to U Building and endorsed Ernest Koroma as the party's chairman and leader for the third time. And not only that, went as far as going to Putlokoye and endorsed him as chairman for life. And not only that, they begin calling after you, now you even propagated a third term agenda. Now the very people then mushroom into these institutions, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and now don't end up elevate themselves to higher levels within the party. Now in opposition, they are still working and using the same institutions the same way they use them, but now in association with the regime in power. So the same way they use Ernest Koroma, and they elevate them for create these kind of clandestine network within their party for disabled and young people, so that they will propel themselves ahead of the political stage. Is the same way they are using Mada Biona as a shield for further deepen this process, this coup d'etat. You call them a national anti-democratic coup, and it has no respect for party. Many of these people are APC, SLPP, joined together. They don't even care about party lines who've come to identify. And the Anti-Corruption Commission is one of their weapons that they've used, especially in leading up to 2012, 2018, and now increasingly to going to 2023. So I will take a break here. Then I will begin break these issues then one by one. So we will not just be talking like this, but examine the examples. And I will start by also bringing by way of update the where the court is, where the court matter is, because I understand now they're coming to New York. I will read I'll get the court documents, and I outside the judge, the illegally appointed Adrian Fisher has ruled that the court case on Samura Kamara for Kana, New York, now that they've come up from Freetown, they take we own taxpayer money, pay for themselves, and work at Kana, New York. They say they can't extend the trial up to New York. One, the trial is now taking a year. It has not concluded. Number two, they are now spending more money per diem and tickets from your money back for saying they can't look at the building in New York. They can't look at the site in New York. The judge, the lawyer, they now, the accused person, they now, they don't talk to Freetown for 1 whole year. They transfer now can New York again for can continue the case in New York. Maybe they say one go claim na the building, they can't go claim na the building upside at the roof. Fisher and all the one. So I understand all the accused persons, including Samura Kamara, Nalo, and other people, they all they come. But don't forget, before the ACC charged the matter in court, the ACC claimed that it had investigated them. They don't come to New York, they go China, go other places, they investigate. That's what the ACC been telling me. So the ACC now, after their investigation, they've charged the court, the judge, the prosecution, the people that were accused now, they're all back, they sit on a plane, then they travel. In fact, from the court document, they say they come off Freetown, they go Dakar, Senegal, from Senegal, then go. Then come na America. So they will be in America, I think, from next week. I don't know if it's Monday or so, but I can't read the document them. So when I go, you're done a way of update. So when I will not be no say the Samura Kamara case, they can't New York, but I know now from me. I don't see any the court papers, and so I understand saying they can't New York, except they change their mind now. But that is what is on floor. They will be bringing the trial to New York. It very much, you ask yourself whether it's useful, or what is the essence of that, whether useful or useless. What we are saying is that the Anti-Corruption Commission is wasting our money, wasting our public money as far as the chance rebuilding case is concerned. One, they've ignored the material evidence relating to the case. They have not charged the people who stole over nearly $5 million given to the Saigon government by China. We don't report this. They're not charged. In fact, they made those people witnesses against people who don't work at the past government. In this case, one minister, the only prominent person who has served in cabinet in that trial is the former foreign minister, Samura Kamara. The question is, how about the other ministers, deputy ministers to him? If really you want to hold people in the past government, at the time when Samura Kamara now being foreign minister, there were two deputy ministers. Where are they? Why were they not charged? If really you seriously say the crime, because I don't see APC people and they argue. Some of them send me video for insist. Six people will send me video. They insist for watching because somebody has said this crime begin under Ernest Koroma in time, and that them believe say 2 million was stolen by Samura Kamara. APC people, and then send me down the type of I tell them, I don't look at that video. I know what TV report and the evidence what we see. If we not get any evidence of video, when I go reporter, you have your platforms. I haven't stopped anyone from publishing any evidence they have. But you cannot make accusations and expect me to say that me go report and provide the evidence. I talk about what I see, the evidence in front of me. If you got evidence, reporter. So they say the evidence talk say Samura say he be not thief 2 million. So what has that got to do with me? No, I report about what I have seen. What it means seeing that the Chinese government gives their own government money in 2018. The first transfer of that money happened the first week of March 2018. That money remained in the account until Ali Kabal and take over, withdraw. The other money come in 2018. That is the over 4.6 million, nearly 5 million. Then they give Mother Bill there. Then transfer that money to New York, they not do nothing with them. Now, assuming say them we don't know say money don't lost for the embassy ever since the problem on the day. Why then transfer money in 2019 for make the embassy not use the money? The anti-corruption not touch that case. The APC people the way want me for look at the whatever video they don't go make together with NGC for say me for look at. I tell them, when I go look at it, don't include me in your flag bearer fight. I'm talking about the publication that we published, we investigated, and we investigate. What we investigate? Not what in there that you don't hear that they talk about, what in there in front of me, the evidence in front of me. So what I know is that the case in Freetown has nothing to do. They don't mention the $5 million what we publish. What they are mentioning is something totally different. The people that will thief the $5 million in 2019, they are not worried about them. They're worried about who they think stole $2 million. So then, but my question, if I reply to them people today now, if you really care about looking at the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the theft of money under Ernest Koroma and under Samura Kamara as minister, you cannot single the minister alone out. You got to talk about the minister, the deputy ministers. At the time, and Ernest Koroma, I think, appointed 2 deputy ministers who served in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Why the ACC not charge them? Why the APC people are not concerned about that? What role did they play? Them just did it as dummies? That's a dishonesty. And you check those individuals, they are key individuals in the APC. And then, not only that, the Director General of the Foreign Affairs Ministry at the time is the one of the witnesses against the minister who have been served under the time when they are accused. Don't you see the selective approach to justice in that case? When I serious about corruption, on a serious for use corruption, on a just serious about using corruption for witch hunt on your own opponents there. I don't care which political party you belong. Both the APC, SLPP, NGC, una all don't cost me. Una all don't gang up at one point or another, dance, because I think say the publications of my writings they help una. When una feel say me writing there against una begin organize course and parade. You cannot, that doesn't move me. What moves me is the evidence in front of me. And I'm saying when hypocrisy and when dishonesty, you can bring it my way. If una want fight una flag bearer fight, or una fight them, una want use una yourself, do it on your own. But you cannot bring it on my head. I speak about what is in front of me. What is in front of me is that there is concrete evidence published by the African Express, which shows money coming from China to Sierra Leone that the Chinese government gave between March to September 2018. That happened under Mother Building time. And between June 2019 to September 2019, they transferred money from Freetown to New York in the name of building an embassy. All the people who have been there, the Foreign Affairs Minister, the embassy in New York, will deal with that money. They've never been charged. They are made witnesses against the former foreign minister. Now, for the check, under Ernest Koroma, at least there were 4 prominent people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 2 deputy ministers, 1 minister, and the Director General. Only the minister under Ernest Koroma in the Foreign Affairs Ministry was charged. When you come to Mother Building time in 2019, the $5 million, close to $5 million or even more that has been stolen, how many ministers? You get for Ali Kaba as minister, you get Nabila Tunis, okay? Then at the embassy, you get, who do you get? You get later Ali Kaba as ambassador, you get deputy ambassador, then 2 we've been there. one on legal affairs and the other one, I think, political or something. In the don't recall and go free to unsafe. They're not charged. So you get three, you get one, two, at least three, four people them. When are major people them. Nabila Tunis, Imran, Kanu as one of the deputy ambassadors. You get Kai Kai as an ambassador. You get Ali Kaba as minister. Two ministers, one ambassador, and two deputy ambassadors. They have never been charged. They are made witnesses against one politician who was former minister. Who now with your own party people who are the fed for a flag bearer. Then you want to blame me because I talk this true. If you say the true, they help on our own crook politics on the pan, crooked politics on a jamfa for talk say na me una go blame, and you begin to accuse me and my views or my statements of fact, my statement of truth, looking at the whole thing. Then when they interpret and say it's a support for one politician, that is your own headache. It has nothing to do with me. You're not going to stop me for talking what I talk so. You know, whether you una scatter on a party or you not get nothing for do with me. What concerns me is if any politician as alone will come forward and tell me, say, what talk say, Mother Bureau transfer $5 million to New York in 2019, a lie. I challenge anyone, APC politicians, who beginning from Cherry Coco to NGC politicians, beginning with Kande Yomkelai, when I supporters them. If anybody can able to tell me, say, when I talk, say, money came from China in 2018, evidence not even challenge that evidence, that is where we have a conversation. Or when I talk, say, when I transfer money in New York in 2019, una the APC people know the vex why they talk this and say them money I don't transfer. When I get that evidence, when I come forward and tell me, say, indeed, I lie, then we'll talk about that. But if you feel, say, I for left the evidence and go bring for you evidence where you for justify your accusation, you must be damn crazy. You must be really something wrong with your head for things saying I mean for justify for you your own allegation. So if you cannot deny and challenge the evidence that we have published, then what do you want to talk about? You want me for support you and lie? For talk say because you don't talk say this corruption, indeed the building, the Chancery building is not a new building. It is a government house owned by the Sierra Leonean government way back from Tijakabaden time. Predates. That's why we have a mission. Then the money, the lobbying effort, the commitment for China for contribute money to Sierra Leone for the construction of an embassy was something that was sealed during Ernest Koroma time. It's in the African Express. We've been on published way back in July 2021. When I go back on it. Now all be the share what would the right to. Would I be the share and share and dance around them? Would I be the maybe when I share and not be reader? Or when I feel say when I don't read them, I don't forget about that. No, we don't forget what we write. We don't forget what we investigate, we don't forget the evidence. It's there. The permanent record isn't what we publish as we go there forever. You know the loss. So we publish the history of the Chancery building funding and the project. But what we showed, again, that even if the Chancery building was a problem, was an embarrassment to Sierra Leone, the time we then take we go to court, we then take Sierra Leone go to court regarding the Chancery building, the damage we don't cause at that embassy area there. It not happened no other time. It happened under Mother Bureau time. And I also say the permits for the construction, for the renovation, what we get right now at the building there, na 2021. And then take her. There is no other evidence where they other than not to me fix and they na the New York, the contractor they hire. Nine. Last week or this week we passed, so I don't publish 2 statements of testimonies from an independent engineer hired by one of the neighbors for assess the damage that they owes and what did happen at our embassy building. I don't publish any statement today. None of una APC or NGC or SLPP we want for cost me because of this true word they talk. Able challenge saying alive. Una not even get one word, one transaction when I don't produce for sure say what I am saying is not the truth. What do you want to talk about? You vex because you think say I for talk what you like, or I for write about what they please you a flag bearer. you must be very interesting human being for things say that is the thing. So we are here because the Anti-Corruption Commission is a useless institution. It has no use. What I mean useless, now we don't get no use. So there is useful and useless. Useful now when something they serve in purpose. You get use. You dey use them for this, use them. But now, the purpose of them is set am for now for control corruption, for address and hold people wey corrupt. But now, if we check under Ernest Koroma, if we dey check say this corruption na from Ernest Koroma in term e start, wey Samura Kamara before the minister, you get 4 people there. 1 minister, 2 deputy minister, and director general. That's 4. If it then that are 4. You count under and Madabio, you get 2 minister, you get at least 3 ambassador. That are 5 people there, 9 people there. All of them at the ministerial level. At the ministerial level, you get 9 prominent people, including director general under Samura Kamara. All the 9 people there, the only person with and them big people there, the only with a minister, deputy ministers, with in charge of the ministries and the embassy, the ambassadors, deputy ambassadors. When you check there, all 9. Now 1 person only 9 days on trial for the chance rebuilding. Una Sierra Leoneans think say that a problem for the country. I know they think say that a problem for the justice system in our country. I know they think say that a problem for law in our country. Or we forget about law, justice, or politics. Human beings, as human beings. When a mortal man, maybe when I get blood, flesh, heart, conscience. 9 people then. If I want to say crime we don't commit, when I want to begin from the origin, at least there are 9 people who worked in government, in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, to the embassy in New York. Minister and deputy ministers. Have you asked yourself why the deputy ministers and other officials under Ernest Koroma in the Foreign Affairs who works with Samura Kamara have never been indicted? They're clean. They're genuine. Have you asked yourself why the current ministers under the current government and ambassadors who work in New York and Freetown under Madabio, where this corruption happened, they've not been indicted? They're clean. They're free. And the opposition, where they can think say that me the stampede, for me cannot talk without the talk so. Me cannot contribute sanity into this conversation. When I feel say that una noise, una your own lack of conscience and lack of character and lack of human heart, you can hit somebody. But when it comes to justice, when it comes to the truth, when it comes to the dispensation of justice, fair trial, human beings should be capable of identifying fairness and truth, regardless of whether it affects you, your relative, or anyone you support. That is what I stand for. So you've singled out one of your kind only because we're all opposed to that. And when I want to bring me into the picture because I'm speaking what you people do not want to be told. And when I feel say when you will associate me with Samura Kamara or APC or I don't care about that. When I don't call me all kind of APC under Tijankaba, SLPP call me APC. APC come then call me SLPP. SLPP within SLPP then say me a Madabio supporter. When Madabio in a power, then say me a APC. Newspaper, they name a newspaper and don't write. Some of them say that $5,000 they pay me for make a write, but corruption under Madabio. The president, your wife, in like say, they want to make maybe want make this one job in their hand. I'm not unemployed. For be part of a system as corrupt as Sierra Leone are the most easy thing. So now, because I talk about this, the very APC people then, and NGC people then, and now they say that Samura Kamara support. But when I talk about the corruption and the sellout nature of parliament, the very APC and NGC people, they defend the APC and the NGC in the parliament. What did I tell you? There's an alliance between the APC in parliament, the NGC, and the other opposition parties in parliament, together with Madabio. And this anti-corruption case and the singling out of only one individual as a target for the rest of all these politicians in these parties is part of the electoral process of 2023. Because in the APC, they've identified this particular character and politician as their target for the election. In the SLPP, they don't find out, say, this is a candidate that has a potential to beat Madabio in the next elections if he contests against him. That's fact. Because he's not been for bitter in the past election. So those in the APC who remained dissatisfied with the appointment or selection of Samura Kamara in 2018, they undermined his campaign, still believe they should undermine his campaign. One way they want to do it, now for wrap this case head with the publication that has nothing to do with Africa. And they want for some Africans spend a wigi, Samura Kamara. No, not a wigi. Now, the APC politicians, who have friends in the opposition, we form alliance, we build COP as an opposition alliance. That's an opposition alliance for Wuna, the parliamentary leaders. Now, Wuna decide, say, you have to eliminate a potential contender to be you and a potential contender to you in your flag bearer competition. So that shows that your common opposition unity, a unit of opposites. The opposition has a unity in parliament, not because they are all united, because they all don't identify a common opponent for them. The SLPP has a benefit in that because NCC then prefer a candidate. If we say APC, SLPP get to be defeated, they want an opposition candidate that is their own choice, and they have found that alliance in parliament, whether they accept it or not. That's the fact. And why many of the parliamentary politicians in the APC have not been accused of corruption, not because they are not corrupt, because there is no corruption that happened under Ernest Koroma in the 10 years of Ernest Koroma in administration, where you could excuse the current parliamentary leader of the APC, Chernoh Ramadan Majuba. No. All the agreement the way passed. Not only that he's a favorite of Ernest Koroma, but he was a key leader, a key parliamentarian that superintended all of the mining agreements and other kinds of agreements where cost the country loss. So if you get a commission of inquiry in Sierra Leone, you will have investigated parliament. Yes, I don't hear one of the opposition people that some of they talk say the opposition na parliament not to the parliament corrupt. Parliament don't corrupt way back, of course. But if we have to look at corruption in the past regime, why did you excuse parliament? What are the role of the current opposition leader in parliament, Chernoh Ramadan Majuba, in the corruption of the APC under Ernest Koroma? He was head of the parliamentary committees on mining, accountability committee. All of them participate in these mining committees, passing of these mining agreements, including even telephone companies, where he provided legal services for some of them. Celtel, Orange, all these companies, check. And you, when I want for can't talk about corruption, because they highlighted when I want for can't say when they stampede me and accuse me of membership or support for so. No, you cannot get that passed through my head. The fact of the matter is that there is no corruption that happened under the APC. If we are going to do holistic corruption in Sierra Leone, all of these individuals should have no place in the politics of Sierra Leone because they are damn corrupt. They worked in a corrupt regime. If when I say there was corruption, indeed there was corruption, and all of those mining agreements did not pass through parliament like that. At some point, Chernoh Ramadan Majuba was himself a deputy speaker of parliament. In the hierarchy of the administration, the organic administration of Sierra Leone, that was number 4th powerful person in the APC at the level of governance. The president, vice president, the speaker, and the deputy speaker are the 4, at least, in a hierarchical order, in a pyramid scheme. That is the 4th person. How did you excuse that individual from the corruption investigations want to do? The very individuals are now they wrap up the same corruption on their own colleagues, and you want to blame me because I'm highlighting the selective approach to fighting corruption. And you want to talk about corruption in the past? We can talk about corruption in the past, but I guarantee you, when we talk about corruption in the past, all of Una, you should be chained, because if you then check how much you were worth in 2007 when the APC was coming to power and how much you are worth today, wallahi, even Satan has gone away from Una, because you did not accumulate what you accumulated rightly. It's through the corrupt relationships, through political corruption and other kinds of financial corruption. But we'll get to that. And I'm ready to go into these conversations now, because we have an opportunity of looking at the whole picture in a cinematic way, which we will not be see Between 2007 to 2018, we are able to see it now. That is what investigation do for you, struggling across time and across regimes. So the other one for say that the trial is now moving to New York from Freetown, not because there is evidence to be found in New York. No, because they just want to waste time and waste money. And they are not really fighting against corruption. They are using anti-corruption commission as a tool. The same they are using the current anti-corruption the same way they used anti-corruption commission in 2012. And if you come check now, when we come for discourse, you will find that these very characters there, that is how they've been able to propel themselves in the national stage. The question is, how what's the relationship between Ade Macaulay and the current parliamentary leader of the opposition in parliament? How is their relationship tied to the current case against their own former flag bearer, their own party member, who they now accuse me say me they support Samura Kamara? Not only have been going to Cambia go announce when I support Samura Kamara. What has that got to do with me? You can choose anybody you want. My work is going to continue because there is going to be corruption in Sierra Leone. Because the reason why you have all of these crooked ways and means to fight, using institutions to fight each other, because you don't want to run good governance. We don't want to build a governance arrangement that is decent, that is transparent, and that is accountable to the masses, that's accountable to the common good of the people. So you always desire for use institutions and laws for destroy each other in the process, for making able to put yourself in positions where you steal money, theft of public money. That's what politics is about in Sierra Leone. So, but I hold a commitment as a journalist in this case for lay out the facts as they are. Whether you accept it or not, it's none of my business. My business is to show them, and also help to introduce sanity into a conversation. So I'm saying, before I take the break, may I just repeat what I say. If these people want to talk about corruption in the Foreign Affairs Ministry as it relates to the Chancery building, they have at least 9 former and current public officials at the level of minister and deputy minister, both in Ernest Kuruma's government and the current government. The question is, why did, out of all those 9 people, now only one person, the former foreign minister, Samura Kamara, put on trial and accused? How about his two deputy ministers? How about the Director General? In fact, Director General, now one of the witnesses against her. Then in the current government, all of the ministers and ambassadors and deputy ambassadors who received the money in 2019, we carry out and left the project the way it is, when they even interact with the neighbors in 2019. Then when they all back now witnesses against one individual out of the 9 prominent people in the government. Not justice, Dandy, a fight against corruption, Dandy. When I know you see that smell of injustice, it smells of hypocrisy, it smells of political repression, it smells of the use of the Anti-Corruption Commission for go after political opponents, the same way you did in 2012, the same way you did in 2018. Anyway, I'm taking a break and come back and continue this discussion. I never wanted to push this beyond 1 hour, 30 minutes, but it looked like I would do another 15 minutes before we close. We'll still continue this conversation as we move along. But I hope that I've made my point here, that what we have right now is not a trial, is a collaborative effort of opposition politicians in parliament who have built an alliance with BO, alliance among themselves, who want to take over the APC. And not only that, they have also, they are using the ACC the same way. And many of these people are lawyers then. The same way they're saying lawyers have head the Anti-Corruption Commission, so they found the process of making sure they are building a state in future, a draconian state that's going to be superintended by lawyers. And when you get crooked lawyers at the level of the state, it's a danger for the country. It's going to be worse than the army. Guerrilla army will make coup. It will be worse than that. And that now, the danger of this is way beyond Madabio. It's way beyond Samura Kamara. It has to do with dangerous politicians who have built alliances across parties, many of them lawyers, also found in civil society, across parties from SLPPA, APC, this is not the state capture. So it's not a case of where Madabio captured the institution, it's a case of where these opposition forces, from lawyers to from found in institutions from parliament to the ACC to the judiciary, And even outside of parliament, the political parties don't come together and then capture the state. They are in the police department. And this making they see all this drama they happen. This campaign of disinformation involving even state institutions. This is why it's happening, because the opposition are actually these opposition groups, interest groups who don't form this coalition. They are the de facto government. They are the perpetrators of violence across the country. The same way they use an Nkrumah to create the constitutional crisis under the APC and rob it off his head and participate in the corruption and thief and then hide and put the corruption and hate. The same way they use Madabe for commit these political and constitutional atrocities where they happen, including the mass killing of people. We have to look at this thing holistically. Otherwise, we deal with a danger whose cause and whose perpetrators we risk jumping over. So we have to look at the country now holistically, because if we not do that and see some of these hidden forces who we don't identify, it could be a problem. And that is the danger we have to really pay attention to. So I want to thank you for being here. Like I say, are they on the road? I mean, broadcasting from Kentucky, Louisville, at the University of Louisville this weekend. And I hope to continue this conversation in a much more coherent way. Well, after the break, I will read the small court papers about the Samura Kamara presence here. Hopefully, we'll take this to 2 hours. I don't be one for do that, but I think so we'll extend that. So let's take a break. And I invite more people then for the rest of the next 30 minutes where you don't left. So we will anchor the conversation. It will go done in one day. We'll continue the other parts in future. I'll come back in a short while. Okay, so we don't do 1 hour 28 minutes in this conversation. I want to read a couple of the what do they call pre-conference approved pre-trial conference orders. Honorable Mr. Justice Fisher Jr. And this was from the Law Courts Building, Shekhar Stevens Street, Freetown, dated 17 October 2022. 17 today, I think. Okay. Justice Fisher signed and stamped this on the 20th of October, 9 days ago. So what happened now? The non-decide said in the Gona, this is the case between the state versus Saidun Alo and the others. Of course, the most prominent here, is Samura Kamara, the 2018 flag bearer of the APC. So then say on the 3rd day of October, the court held a pre-trial conference with a view to putting modalities in place for the court to visit the site, the site of the Chancery Building in New York. So basically, then the site say, then they put modality for me and can New York for can visit the building. And I remember that video, they were released, we're going to the building. The courts, people and say in the Canada, New York, can't see the building, the judge. And all the people and the suspect that now, the accused persons and now the lawyer there. They don't get opportunity for Canada, New York. They want to take per diem for camp. So I read Tona. As a result of orders I granted, the accused persons and their lawyers were given an opportunity to advise the court as to their intentions with regard to the visit. Consequently, the court received the following affidavit from all accused persons, save for the sixth accused person. So they receive, the court say, Fisher say, they all for, then they can and New York can't see the building. This building here where they don't eat money, where they put Samuel Kamara. So they receive one, a letter written by Mohammed Pamomo Fona on behalf of the first and third accused persons. Then sworn affidavits sworn to by the first and third accused persons. The other thing, a letter from the second accused person's counsel, the lawyer will represent the second accused person. I will read the name, but I already know. A letter and sworn affidavit from the fourth accused, a letter and sworn affidavit from the fifth accused. It is expedient to set out in some detail the contents of the affidavits and letter from the accused persons, the first accused person. So the first person, I think this is aside Unalo. Gonna put number one. He said the first accused person submitted a sworn affidavit dated 11th October 2022. That in the we will be now released that video now, covering a letter in which he swore to the following. They say Saidunalo, I think Nana, the first accused person, in talk say, with a majority of the counts, then get the plenty charge then, and then charge pass all. You know, Samura Kamara is not two charge you get. Anyway, in say it is imperative that he attends the visit with his counsel, in one for with the lawyer. However, currently does not have the means to travel, and he barely has enough to sustain his family, including his wife and children. Sadunalo say, although they want Ingo for Canada, New York, but right now, because of the case when not put by all them on there, it didn't court back and forth. You know, the case now 1 year so now, almost. They're not over 50 adjournment. They say they're not able for sustaining himself, they're not able to pay for himself. He can, however, take care of himself in New York through friends. If you can't, you will get side for day, you get party, we go make you get side for later, side transport for waka with them, and all that in the day. But you don't get money for take care of your family itself. So you don't go pay for a lawyer, you don't go pay for yourself for camp. But if you can, you must get one or two party. We go say, we go sorry for that. You can't sleep here. Next time in parlor, you go sleep at the couch. So that's all he say. That he's unable to fund the trip for his counsel in lawyer to travel to New York, as he's rendering pro bono services to him during his trial. In fact, the lawyer will represent and the representative are free right now, able to pay himself. You see? That he's currently exploring ways through friends to fund the trip and accommodation for his counsel to New York. So right now, what they look for? They can big party them back. Although they get party, they will go allow for me. If you can in New York, for make he catch to them. So the parlor say go sleep there during that 10 days. But it depends big party them back. We'll see if they go help her get money, for me buy ticket for your own lawyer for Canada, New York. That it will be in the interest of justice and fairness if at least a return air ticket to New York is paid for him by the state. So in don't beg the court say, do ya for justice in sake, may them fair way for pay for a lawyer, do ya? So instead say, so you don't get money, may the government help her. The second accused submitted a covering letter dated in which he informed the court he does not intend to travel to New York and will nominate his solicitor, Brian Makuroma, to travel to New York. Further, he will fund the trip of this solicitor for trip inclusive of accommodation. So Brian Makuroma in your own possible representative say, you know, go Canada, New York, but you go pay for America. The third accused submitted a sworn affidavit dated 11th October 2022 with a covering letter in which he swore to the following facts: that he will have loved to travel to New York to attend the law course. However, he currently does not have the means to travel. So plenty of the people in Naya then talk say that it will be in the interest of justice and fairness of at least a return air ticket to New York is paid for him by the state. The fourth accused submitted a covering letter in which he affirmed that he will travel to New York and one consul and will bear the cost of traveling. Samura Kamara, in say, in go Kana New York and he go pay for himself with his own lawyer for making them come, and he go pay for the accommodation. So you don't want the government for pay for them, big them, make them pay for them. So since in the camp, they say in the counter in New York, he go come for himself. He will pay for himself for make them come. So plenty of the people in Naya, then go for now they say they pay for themselves. So now so they don't agree, say that he has not been okay. I want to see what the judge say after all this now. So the judge, after hearing all these parties, it is hereby ordered Fisher, that illegal judge, we're not supposed to practice the way the lawyer then say you're not supposed to practice law in a salon. Now we say 1, the Anti-Corruption Commission shall source funding from the government of Sierra Leone to facilitate the movement of the court to New York to conduct, that site visit, and then called locus inco, I don't know how to pronounce it anyway, between the 30th day of October and the 6th day of November 2022 in the following manner. So the 30th of October, then tomorrow, self, and the 6th day of November, and 1 week, in the following manner. 1, they need a return air ticket for the presiding judge and the court registrar from Freetown to New York and back to Freetown. Now the money they arrange for it to money back up, and this one they don't eat that $1 million in the New York building. Now the way they do the trial, like trial, then they come back with money. 2, return air ticket for 2 prosecutors from the ACC from Freetown to New York and back to Freetown. 3, per diem for the presiding judge and the court registrar for the duration of the visit. 4, per diem for the prosecutor for the duration of the trip. 5, return air ticket for the first and third accused from Freetown to New York and back to Freetown. Number 6, return air ticket for consuls for the first, third, and the 5th accused from Freetown to New York and back to Freetown. The return air tickets should be routed via Dakar to New York and return, as it will represent a cheaper outlay on government resources. The above orders are in the interest of justice. So I don't see it. This is not Fisher. Adrian Fisher. The signer, Honorable Adrian Fisher, 20th October 2022, signed Justice of the Superior Courts of Judicature. The Honorable Justice Fisher, Jr. So I don't know now what thing happened with the chance rebuilding case. I have laid out the parameters of the case, and I don't publish. Then there are 2 testimonies of the neighbor, one of the neighbors who sued the government of Sierra Leone through the embassy, na court na New York. Then we don't win the first aspect of the case, which is an argument against the embassy people, the way this thing they happen, then talk say, then not for be put on trial and get diplomatic immunity. The court in New York, the Southern District Court of New York, under the presiding judge, Edgardo Ramos, don't rule, say the Sierra Leonean government, then diplomats, them in New York, they're not able to claim immunity for the destruction of their neighbor's property to the abandoned building. And don't forget about even the destruction to the neighboring property, that the fact that the building as it is so, they undervalue the property, they own that area, all of the value of the property of that area, they go down, they depreciate because of that one building, the thing that the property valuation, that's what it does. They don't turn the place to a wreckage. So now that make 21 neighbors there already get complaints against the Sierra Leone mission in New York, diplomatic embarrassment, to the extent that the court in New York don't revoke the immunity of the embassy for saying they get right for sue them a court for the damages that they've caused, not just to their immediate neighbors, but even to the neighborhood. So don't forget that we might be having more cases to the point that we're not going to repair the damage that sell go for end up for sell the building maybe. And not only that, before these people then fend way for old Ali Kabada and the people that will transfer this money in 2019, over 5 million way for them fix that building. They still live in politics 1 year now. Now we don't add on top of it. The judge don't say they're all for Wakakana, New York. They're not the only kind of New York, then they come with the lawyer there and the court registrar, anti-corruption prosecutors. But now New York and now the government, now we own money then they pay back, taxpayers' money on top of the back for can't see the building. In addition to that, then they pay per diem to themselves for that for 1 week. The question is this in the interest of justice, in the interest of the image of Sierra Leone? And don't forget, Madabio say he has been traveling, looting billions of leones, millions of dollars out of the Central Bank of Sierra Leone for travel around the world because they repair the image of Sierra Leone. Here we have the image of Sierra Leone in the United Nations in New York. And the only thing which make the Americans give Madabio visa for America now because of him meeting the way he can at the UN. He came to the UN in 2018. He came to the UN in 2019. If you don't see the image of the building, if the building be done there that state where Samura Kamara and other people have don't eat this money, why did they not include it they did not raise it in 2018, 2019? Only after the African Express published say Madabio and young people they don't use the building in construction, they don't transfer 5 million, they don't chop it. And you tell them say more go Fenba, good than APC for whole. So the opposition in parliament, because of their leadership struggle, their effort for overthrow the party, this generation of people then, with their lawyers and their effort for get rid of the party, then build this case together with Madabio and their alliance on their former flag bearer and their so-called party comrade. Because the evidence what we publish is very clear. It has nothing to do with anything other than the receipt of money in 2018 by Madabio from China and the transfer of that money to New York in 2019, and the fact that the money was stolen by these officials from Freetown to New York. And we must emphasize all of the people that were involved in that transaction in 2018, 2019 under Madabio, they are all not on trial. The person on trial is one minister under Ernest Kuruma, and also the people with that minister, they work with that ministry, they are all not on trial. One of them is the Deputy Director General, the Director General of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, I think Khadija Bashir, when Adema Koli in Mama, Naina, one of the witnesses against her. Adema Koli was the Anti-Corruption Commission under Ernest Kuruma when supposedly this year happened. So he never investigated that at the time. And now, as a lawyer, he's supposedly representing Samura Kamara in a matter that supposedly a corruption that happened under the time when they were in charge of the Anti-Corruption Commission. And his mom is one of the listed witnesses against Samura Kamara in the trial when Mama said, work at the Foreign Affairs Minister as Director General. Does that make sense? Or now I repeat it. If I know your area, may I see the comment? If I repeat it, I say so I can repeat it, I can see the comments. But what am I saying? Both the APC and the SLPP found an interest and an opportunity for indict their own opponent, both within the party and outside of the party, with a case that and evidence will point to the SLPP. And now they can't say me for go look video where them produce say the own party person talk say the trial be happening under in your own time. Okay, Bobo Leon B don't post say repeat Mr. Bar. Zainab also Kamara say repeat. What are they saying that the corruption where they hold Samura Kamara for at the time when I've been foreign minister, I've been get 2 deputy foreign minister there. He been get the Director General of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Director General of Foreign Affairs Ministry, the permanent secretary. Now, in your case, the Director General of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, now one of the witnesses against them, that witness the now Adema Koli, the former Anti-Corruption Commissioner, now in Mama. And the corruption when they talk about, so if the corruption will be happening under Ernest Kuruma, it happened at the time where Adema Koli, all that them within at the ACC. So they're not being investigated. But now when the corruption case on in one of the lawyers, the way they say they represent Samura, in a case where Mama a witness against the clients who they represent. You don't get that? In the ministry, of the past government. Now, that one person, the other four people, they're all one a witness, the other two not mentioned, deputy ministers. Under Madabio, they get about 5 top officials, 2 ministers, 1 ambassador, because Ali Kaba contacts minister ambassador, so I'll call her minister of foreign affairs. Nabila Tunis, minister of foreign affairs. Kai Kai was ambassador, although a minister that was saying ambassador. The 2 of the deputy ambassadors and 5, they were all, with the exception of Nabila, they all are witnesses against Samura in the case. So in 9 officials, away for the way, if you want bundle, been for corruption, they were only for bundle together, put them on trial. Now one person only they put on trial. When I see the opposition and the ruling party, the effort. Why? Because both in the opposition party, a challenger to them. Both in the opposition, a challenger to them. And you know, go put this past. And these characters, they all they fight not just for be at the helm of affairs of the party, flag bearer, competition. They fight also to control the executives of the party. Ade Macaulay is fighting to be Secretary General. And where you check him, he's connected to the parliamentary leader of the party. Now they don't camp that. Now they don't flank that. That is who they are, the parliamentary opposition. Now their own group. They don't want me to say this, but these are the facts. So if they really care about justice, they will be concerned about the $5 million that was lost between 2018 when Madabio came to power to 2019 when the money was transferred. But now the very people that now want me for go look video where they don't make say, we should say the construction with Madabio that start in 2021 when they get permit for, they're not complete and they're not able to account for the $5 million in question. When transfer 2019. If the problem was there when before Madabio took power, you don't meet and why you not be address the problem, but then transfer money in the name of the building. Now, even if they don't give money 2018, I mean before 2018 and 2019, why now one person only under the past government indict? The minister only. Really, in the ministry, in the sense, because the other one, these are just added names. But up and above that, we don't get to a situation where Madabio visited New York, visited America, not because of ordinary point, because they can't at the UN General Assembly. The Americans would deny a visa. He's coming to America both in 2018, 2019, up to now, you got to do with the UN General Assembly meeting. 2018, if I don't see the embassy, like a wreck. 2019, if I don't say a wreck. If I don't say this wreck, now a wreck where a building abandoned by the APC because they've stolen the money. And if I don't include them at the COI report, if I don't include them, the APC people, the way they fight the young flag bearer, they say that me put the case na Samura in here because African Express Public. No, we saw corruption under BO. We saw corruption under Madabio. Why? Because Madabio kind of power, it talks say, it organize COI, it do GTT report, they do forensic thing, they go after APC people, they go after members of the previous government, say corruption done under a new term. They fight corruption. What we set out for doing for showing a lie, Madabio the lie. From in the president, in WEF, all the government agencies, they all get corruption. Well, if that is the why we should say David Francis, nearly $4 million, they don't misuse in procurement funds. They don't go hold the previous people away in the day. Why we will publish about all of these other ministries, including the fact say NACIT over $6 million neighbor account and 60.9 billion neighbor account for. I will not talk about that. Why would I not go hold other people again? So in this case, they will not say now a government for not see the case. No, the government inherited the chance rebuilding project and transfer $5 million. What happened to the $5 million? Now, let's say then take $5 million in 2019, then complete the building and say, but other money be done the way they're not complete, and for be hold them people in the for be make sense. But your money, when you transfer $5 million, you not use that. And you're not going to talk about this issue until the public, they go find somebody, trade, you go hold on. Then only then. So this is a clear example of how the state, the opposition, now they don't capture these state institutions in a way. Their friends and their colleagues, their alliances with the state, where they don't build, they have functioned not just as advisors, but as co-collaborators in the use of state institutions against their own opponents, because many of these people are friends, are colleagues. They went to school together. They took the bar exam together. They attended, they are collegial. They belong to the same clubs, school clubs and everything. So they have found a material interest in supporting each other, both in the past and in the present, in preparation for the future. Leading up to 2012, 2010, 2011, the whole country talk about constitutional review. You understand? 2013, leading up to 2018, we talk about constitutional review for review the constitution, because the constitution of Sierra Leone get enormous powers we give to the presidency and all a bad thing there. We don't do this review till under Justice Cowan. The review never became not seen final day. All of them people that way caused this, now then did at the opposition at parliament now. There's no way we can blame that alone on an Eskroma without putting together the leaders we constitute the key people that win an Eskroma, your key adherents. You might call them the Kuroma East in the APC. They have become the aberration. And they start with their parliamentary leader, you extend them right across, to party members. So I can say these things because I've seen them. I don't see them. So I can say them because I have many of our party people that know what I talk to say are true. They cannot say it because of political expediency. They want to get vote. They want to make sure they can contest. Then they don't want to annoy una. They don't want to make una party supporters. But I can say it, to APC member, I don't look to be your member. Now you trouble that. So, but why I say this? In 2018, if we don't get a good new constitution, if we don't democratize power in a salon, restore more power to the people and ensure more checks and balances and control and more democratization, we will get opportunity under the school. The same way they reform the ACC and give more power. But these same politicians, because they imagine themselves as inheritors of the state, that they program and Eskroma and pump them up into what they call Supremo. After you, the same people that I don't brand Madabi to this monster. I feel like say Madabi breathe no more, all man they die. So they make this fear, where in actual fact, the same way they hide behind the shadows of Kuruma and propel them for create the atrocious constitutional violations and participate in the corruption where it takes place. Now the same way they are hiding behind this muppet as a president, and they cause all this thing. Now the constitutional review will then kill under an Eskroma. They don't move ahead now in parliament. They don't pass all dangerous laws. Them you begin for count now. Cyber Act, na parliament passer. This currency act, na parliament passer. The public elections law will give the president more power and the electoral commission more power for determining. I know that now. I don't need to explain. Public Elections Act of 2022, Parliament. The how you call it right now, Political Parties Act 2022 for make sure say smaller party they're not going to survive. Nobody will form new party easily. That they can try for passer. The Central Intelligence, National Security Central Intelligence Act, way complementary to the Cyber Act. That the same thing. Where they will just arrest opposition based on the idea of central intelligence. You don't understand, eh? Say we suspect you, seize your computer and things like that, and they pass up. They don't even pass this for help Madabi. Then they imagine, say, at the level of parliament after Madabi, they're going to take over government. And when they take over government, they are lawyers, many of them lawyers. Check them. From your parties to the opposition, when them party, to all them, and many of them are lawyers. Now imagine with this kind of dangerous laws, dangerous constitution, with dangerous secondary legislation we don't pass in these 4 to 5 years now. We check all the laws we don't pass. Now, anti-democratic law from cyber legislation to so no matter if you want to do this. So this is why Parliament has to be held squarely responsible. When opposition at Parliament, they are the real cancer to our democracy today. They are the cancer to the fight against corruption. They are poison to national development and national cohesion. Until we are able to single them out and put them in front of the people and address the issues that we're talking about, we'll be making a dangerous mistake. And me, I don't decide, say, for the opportunity that I have, and which is why I'm very grateful to then and now for giving me this opportunity. Nobody knows say I not say it. I will continue to say it continuously. If you're not listening, tomorrow you will say I don't say it. But what you have is a group of lawyers, members of parliament, in parliament and outside of parliament, who have schemed, at least from 2010 to now, using state institutions like the ACC for muzzle and propel themselves to where they are, muzzle their opponents and propel themselves. And they are imagining a draconian legal state under their control, corrupt state under their control. That is the danger that we have to be concerned about. And then also say, then find a moped, they don't left Madabio and wife made them to go and do all the thing there. And then they under they prepare the stage. That's what they're doing. We want change in a saloon. Of course, we are all fed up with the dictatorship of the Bio regime. We have exposed it. We don't write about corruption of Madabio. Show every facet. There's no guess. Nobody in the opposition or the ruling party will able to challenge any of the evidence that we've published. And we're going to publish more. We are returning to our Sunday routine. And that's one of the reasons why I come here right now, for mobilize my own team and develop a schedule leading up to the election. I'm more determined than ever for expose graft and corruption across institutions and across the political class. That have my determination. I'm ready for doing without hesitation. And I will do it ferociously. But I want to remind the people of Sierra Leone and those of you who are watching that what you have in front of you is beyond political parties. It's about the soul of the country, the life of the country, the future of the generations yet unborn. If we're not able to address this, it's going to be a very tedious situation. The discussion not long. We are now getting to 2 hours. In the next part 3 of this conversation, I will go back to 2018 and 2012 and show how the 2 incidents and they relate to the current case. But what I'm trying to say, if we are serious about accountability, we already have internal accountability systems that we need to develop at the level of Parliament, the Parliamentary Accountability Committee, to the Accountant General's Department, to the Audit Service, right up to the Central Bank. These should be able to control corruption and control graft and control waste. If anyone steals money, the laws them we talk about theft and criminality and the theft of public funds should be able, law enforcement, to be able to deal with them. The CI, the Criminal Investigations Department, should be able to investigate them and charge them to court. The court should be able to find them guilty and sentence them without an anti-corruption commission. We will begin to make the case to international people for stop funding the anti-corruption commission. It is now a weapon in the hands of corrupt politicians where they use them for their own party fights in an election. It has become an anti-democratic institution. It is going to be used, its use is no longer there. We had a good intention to bring this, but instead of serving its manifest function, it has become latent. It is a latent attribute that it has achieved, thanks to the effort of these rogue politicians in parliament, mostly APC politicians. And they found relevance in their alliance with Madabio because they see Madabio as a moped that they can use to consolidate and then subvert power. In the end, they will do to Madabio the same thing or worse than what they have done to Ernest Kuruma and the other gerontocrats in their party. I say that, but the consequence, not to down suffer, now the country can suffer. Because when you have rogues behaving in this kind of way, they are worse than the cartels, than the drug cartels in Latin America. And now the problem that we will continue to appeal to international organizations, international friends of Sierra Leone, who are engaging in Sierra Leone to make it as a condition of their engagement, the scrutinization of all of these organizations and individuals who are putting themselves forward as credible representatives of the people. We have to be concerned about the environment, dictatorial environment that's been nurtured both at the level of parliament and across other institutions through the development of legislations where that has the implication, they have the implication of nurturing a dangerous legal state. And that is what we have to be concerned about. And at that now we worry. So I would say that and thank many of you for listening and for paying attention. I see we got an appreciable audience today. I'm still developing the process, the competence for Siago the readent here. So before I go, I know I don't already talk about the Anti-Corruption Commission, its weaponization. I don't address the role of the opposition in the current chance rebuilding case and how it has to be looked into. But up and above all, when I went in New York, the East Coast, when I go to the chance rebuilding around this dinner, if I want to also go there, I want to see the visitation of the judge. I want to ask her, we got to look how much they've spent. I want to make them finish and travel. Then we will publish the details of each and every person in per diem, including Fisher. Um, Among the people that will come, I don't really want the way talk say no one. Someone come and say no one, the money you go pay for himself. So you guys should follow up. That is coming up between the 30th of October to the 6th of November, from what I read on the court papers. And I know say some of them I know already say well, it was going to happen. We said don't learn about that, so I brought it to your notice. I will take one small break. I want to talk about the Mamadi Dumbuya 10 minutes before I go. I think say necessary will make I add one small comment on the Guinean military visit and why people think say it's new. It's not new. Not the first time this whole guys Guinean military influence or demonstration as alone. But I want to take this break. We cannot make him I know I may mix into the conversation on corruption. So thank you. I'll come back for just brief 10-minute comment before I go. Yeah. Okay, so I want to make this I want for make this comment briefly that so before I make a comment, I don't read to the court papers. According to the court papers, this week where they come nine the visit for them happen. So you got for when I got for cross check that and see whether they are going to do that or not. But I basically read the paper. Whether they will change their mind or not, that's upon them. But we are watching, and we will take the computers and aggregate the numbers and see how many people, how much money they are going to spend. We don't see the intention. They don't already give a legal basis for the Nkawan, why they want Canada, New York, and the money where they want to spend. So if they do that, we're going to publish the details. If they don't do that, it's upon them, but they already have papers and orders on that. So, and if they then decide to change the schedule, we will update you again on that. So that is what we have learned. But anyway, before I go, I think yesterday, we see these military troops of army officers coming into Sierra Leone. Was it yesterday? Well, these 2 days, I've seen the social media and much of the conversation online has been about the military visit of the junta leader in Guinea to Sierra Leone. I think it's one of his first international travels. He came with a convoy of military vehicles and soldiers, well-armed soldiers. And I don't see the conversation around Sierra Leoneans. We make them a topic, talk about demanding a show military might and all of that. That is not really something way unusual for military officers that travel across countries where bother each other. And I don't think it should be even an issue of serious conversation, because there are more serious issues on floor. The issue of the corruption in Parliament, the issue of the ECSL, the fact that they have not released the provisional voters register with the numbers up to now, and the idea that Parliament is still passing draconian legislation, the Political Parties Act and the National Security and Central Intelligence Act, the new agreements on revenue collections when they do one and all know about, and all of these things that are happening in Parliament. Those should have been the actual issues. But I do understand why people concerned about army and the show of military might. But this is not the first time it happened at Saloon. The Guinean army has had significant influence on Sierra Leonean politics. Sheikh Stevens, for example, in the 70s, we got Guinean Sujaman and Kam, Saloon. And they were providing security for him. When Sheikh Stephen and other people were overthrown in 1967, he stayed in exile for the most part. John Bangura and other people, they organized in Guinea and trained people in Guinea to come invade and remove the military government when it became apparent that the National Reformation Council was not going to leave power, and they were overthrown by young army officers later on, and they brought Sheikh Stephen back from exile. Even when they come out from exile for take power in Guinea, was escorted by Guinean soldiers. So not only for Guinean soldiers with might. You see that Tijan Kaba as well. When Tijan Kaba was kicked out of power, who's been there? He didn't Guinea, stayed there for a long time. I didn't coordinate the military operation where it returned to Tijan Kabana power. Guinea's army played a significant role in that, in the restoration of the ousted government of Tijan Kaba after the AFRC coup. We know that. This is a recent history. So part of the reason, again, you cannot compare military might, Dwafu army. No, we know they compare the Sierra Leonean army and the Guinean army because they're two different ideological armies, two different, I don't call it, but two different orientational armies. One is of British orientation and the other is of French orientation. So the discipline in the army and the approach to national security and national warfare are different. As a journalist, when I travel, while I travel across Africa, I find out, say, in English-speaking countries where if I introduce myself, I can't on any airport or any border point and introduce myself as a journalist, and they get easy passage, then they allow you pass. But when I say being a journalist, at the enter a French country, whether it's Guinea, Conakry, Abidjan, other places, I get more scrutinized. Then they check me more than in English-speaking countries. That tells you our approach to national security is different. The French, they pay more attention. French-speaking countries pay more attention to intelligence gathering, national security, more than most. They are more paranoid about that than English-speaking countries, from my own experience, from my own observation. So that can account for the show of might. And make we not forget, the Guinean army itself, for tell about how they're serious about national security and national defense. Now, one of the only armies in Africa that has repelled foreign military aggression, successfully repelled in a way. I know they count Ethiopia. I'm talking about 1970, because we get this the Ethiopian army in those that I'm talking about. Maybe Marseille, West Africa, or one of the only. So meaning there's another. But in 1970, the Guinean Portuguese invasion of Guinea happened for overthrow the government of Sékou Touré. What happened? In 48 hours, the Guinean army and the Guinean politicians and everybody, national defense, everybody rose to the defense of the country and drove the foreign invaders. These were Western invasion of Guinea, the same way that happened in Libya. So when you check that, in fact, when you equate Guinea and maybe Guinea and Ethiopia with the war against Italy, the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, and then Cuba. Now, these are one of 3 countries where we'll check in history with that exceptional effort for repel foreign aggression within the shortest possible time. The Bay of Pigs in Cuba is still, in their national imagination. Guinea itself, the 1970 Portuguese invasion of Guinea, backed by other Western countries, really, and the successful effort of the Guinean army and their defense apparatus at the time for repelled Woodset. So subsequent to that, now ask yourself, which country today, including Libya, Muammar Gaddafi with all in might, was unable to defeat foreign invasion, NATO invasion of Libya? That's not to say, but I just tell you that the kind of military orientation that you're looking at, you should not be surprised with that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with a junta leader who is unwelcome the most part of the thing, and ECOWAS and other people don't reject him. So he has to think militarily, and he get that kind of escort. And that escort is not an invasion, it's not just invade Salone. May have been done with the understanding of a diplomatic visit, but sadly, is an army government coming to Sierra Leone to visit a civilian government. They have to behave that way. So let us understand things properly. The proper understanding of things is necessary for make we able to discuss both regional politics, international politics, as it relates to Sierra Leone and how it affects me. But remember again, Gaddafi visited Sierra Leone with the same kind of convoy. Remember the Mutkade and the soldier man and defense and delegation. So it is always, it got to do with the understanding of the host country. If Salombe say no, they know they allow Mamadi Dumbuya for car, for car with one soldier man safe. But they came by road, so it's expected they will come with that kind of might. The question though, what I would love to see on the part of the Sierra Leonean press and other people now for investigate whether the convoy that came and the ammunition with Nkawit and all that convoy all returned as they came. That for be with question, did they return? All the soldier man them, all the gun them, everything with them come with, if they go with them back. That is what you have to be concerned about. Because if they don't go with them back, is it possible that they came with guns and ammunition where they don't get left for Madabi and go back? Was the convoy a transportation of ammunition from Guinea into Sierra Leone? We have to find out that. So now that are the question. For journalists or people, that should be the question. If they then come back with everything okay, both their personnel and their military hardware that they came with, if they return with everything, then they for be the point of conversation, the point of discussion, the point of interrogation. Because we got to find out if the government can buy and use Guinea as a shipment point for bring ammunition at the country or not, and gun and they bring from other BO, will get election or not. Because in 2000, leading up to 2012, we remember there was a discussion about the transportation of new arms and ammunition to the country, $5 million. I remember we all being whole. At the time, Musa Tarawali was, I think, Internal Affairs Minister when that shipment of ammunition was about $5 million or so. It was a whole argument, a whole debate leading up to the election. We get a convoy of trucks there again, army trucks that will be coming from Guinea Can into Freetown at the time. This was towards 2011, 2012, leading up to that election. So I find out that people usually forget things. So I'm just decided to add this into the conversation as thinking points. But it's not an unusual thing. Forget this kind of thing. And we've had it before. The Guinean army don't intervene in a saloon. Before the war in the 1970s, there was even a parliamentary resolution passed in 1970, Sheikh Stephen in time when he was prime minister, we allow the Guinean army for intervene in a saloon in defense of the government in the case that the government of Sierra Leone feel they cannot be defended or the defense system or the defense infrastructure that Sierra Leone will provide the required protection for the government and the territorial integrity of the country. So we had that in 1970. When I go look at YouTube, Sheikh Stevens himself in was talking. You get those videos about the 70s and the so-called coups, 1971 and 72, and the Guinean army stepping in as a consequence of that parliamentary resolution between Guinea and Sierra Leone, to the extent that they want for even include Liberia into the thing. But the Liberian president at the time, according to Sheikh Stevens, said he was thinking about it. History is important. Knowing the past is important. It's relevant to understanding the present and knowing where we're heading. So thank you very much for today's conversation. Thanks to all those who have been here, who've been listening and pay attention. We'll continue this conversation for next week. When I pay attention, maybe the government will change their plan, or the judiciary will change their plan for Ghana, New York. If that happens, we will also update that. But they already have it on their plans for CAM, use more taxpayers' money for per diem and tickets. If you're not doing, that means they don't save we from more expenditure. But that's the case. And they don't already talk, say, then they come with anti-corruption, they don't say they don't come New York, they don't investigate, they don't charge the case, so they come again. No more money, nobody don't want to spend. So see you next week. And this is the Frontline show with me, Chernoh Alphaba. We are discussing the weaponization. We've been talking about the weaponization of the Anti-Corruption Commission during public elections from 2007 to 2018. We've highlighted the case of, 2022, we've highlighted the case of the 2022 example with the current chance rebuilding trial. In the next conversation, I will step back and continue deepen the conversation in the past. And I hope that you've had some kind of insight into this. We'll continue. These are the second episode on this subject I think we will have two more episodes on the subject of the ACC and why, in my estimation, it should not be uh, an institution that should be maintained in Sierra Leone moving forward. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Before I go, I think Prince Kroma John Punajat, the late Liberian President William Tolbert, did eventually sign the agreement. So that's food for thought. We're going to check the history. See you next week. Thank you.